Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
Dudignon and Claridge have been 1-2 at both races so far this season, but that consistency will be tested today, and all of the drivers will have to face down one of the trickiest circuits on the iRacing service. Oulton Park's short lap time and simple footprint look deceiving on paper. Hidden in there are bumps, crests, and scary fast corners that offer no room for error. Will it catch out any of our protagonists? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 3 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sean, I won't lie, this track was usually my drop week when I was still racing this car. This place is just diabolical.
It is, and we'll let the lap guide show you how diabolical it is, but welcome to Little Budworth, just outside Tarporley in Cheshire, England, and they started racing here back in 1953 on this old country estate. Oulton Park's sweeping contours and picturesque setting have ensured it's one of England's most popular racetracks, almost from the very first time they started here. It's also a venue where they had a piece of history in 1961 when Sir Sterling Moss took the unique four-wheel drive Ferguson to victory here. The only time a total traction car has triumphed in the top category, and they, banned the four-wheel drive cars a little later after that. So anyway, now we are on the International No Chicane course today, which is 2.6 miles and 12 turns, and an awful lot of fun and a lot of peril ahead. Let's hop on board the GSRC Lotus 49 for a trip around Oulton Park.
All right, we've got Billy Bob Wright and the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Oulton Park. Down in Old Hall Corner, there's a deceptively late apex here. Turn in too early and you'll find yourself using up the runoff. Up next is Denton's, which is flat out in most cars, but with the 49, you need a big lift to make sure you're on the correct line. Hold off to the right and then ease it around Cascades. You'll need patience before you fully get to the throttle out of here. And yet it's very important to not hesitate too much because it's a decently long run down Lakeside up to Island Bend. If ever there was a corner that requires bravery, this is one. Understeer and oversteer can both spell the end of your day in a flash. Then keep the car to the left and throw out the anchors for Shell Oil's corner. It's going to be pretty hard to set up passes into here, but coming off, be gentle with how hard you apply the throttle. After that, you'll need a big lift and as wide an entry as you can through turn 6. And yet the backstretch is not without dangers either. The car can get loose over the crest of Hilltop, and it might be a good idea to lift off the throttle just a hair. From there, you plunge into the braking for Knickerbrook. This fast kink requires incredible precision, and it won't be uncommon for drivers to wreck the car here. Just to emphasize the lack of downforce on this car, Clay Hill and Water Tower also can't be taken flat out. Hold the car to the left and straighten it out for the braking into Druids. There's 2 apexes to clip, then watch out for the crest on the exit. From there, Lodge can sometimes offer passing opportunities, but you need a really good run on your competitor. Stab the brakes hard, and then the track really drops away coming out of here, so be wary not to loop it. From there, you'll moderate the throttle over the hill, and hopefully you've now finished a lap around Oulton Park.
You can see just how much you have to saw at the wheel to get this car around this place, so it'll be tough out there, and we'll get to just how tough in a moment because the conditions are not helping. Before we look at that, let's take a look at the championship situations, starting with the Formula One Drivers' Championship. Michel Dudignon, having taken both wins, has a perfect 100 points, and Claridge, having taken both second place, has a not quite as perfect 90 points, just 10 points back. Ove Trangrade missed out on third place one of the times, but did have a third the other time, and that is good enough for third in the points. He is very closely trailed by Roman Pawlowski now, who jumps up, and then Eduardo Prado, who came in with his first race of the season last round, suddenly finds himself jumped up to 5th in the points in his very first try. So glad to see him coming in and showing him how it's done. Sean, what about the Formula 2 driver standings?
Joe Hugh Haycox sits up top right now over Steve Hogan. He's got a battle of France and the UK going on there. Haycox coming up to the top there in round 2. David Rossi sitting out in 3rd. And Don, tell me something good. In 4th, tied with Philip Burkcourt from the UK. So a diverse mix at the top of the F2 standings here as we get this season started.
Truly an international series out here. Now let's take a look at the Constructors' Championship, which is essentially done by their nation. France and UK are where you would expect them, and Norway follows Trangrade into 3rd. The US is actually in 4th currently, and tied there with Germany. Pawlowski contributing points to them. Gary wasn't at Laguna Seca last week, unfortunately, but his success in France certainly helped him out. Just in case we have viewers that haven't watched the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends, Sean, what's today's race going to be like?
Well, welcome to round 3 here in the series. Now, they do get 2 drop weeks. As Joe had mentioned earlier, this is a tough track. This might be a good opportunity for a drop week here. We'll see as the season goes on, but it's 24 laps here today at Oulton Park. Open setups. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means you have control of the car. You're not limited to a default setup here from iRacing. You can tune this car to achieve maximum performance out of the Lotus 49, and the points as they run in this series pay all the way back to 25th place. We've got 26 cars in this field today, so someone's going home with nothing, Joe. That 26 car.
Unfortunately. So whoever's last place will be a little bit disappointed, to say the least. Now, this race, as always, is brought to you on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe when you get the opportunity. If you haven't yet, you'll see a big red button that says subscribe. Click that, and you'll get all of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends in your YouTube feed. We talked about difficult conditions out here today. If you look at the weather, It's not the hottest we've seen, but this is already a tough enough circuit to try and find grip. 105 degrees on the surface is not going to help things. And on top of that, Sean, look at the wind out there. My goodness, it's like the racing gods hate these guys today.
Uh, yeah, and it's funny. I've been watching practice for a couple hours now, and this is about as windy as it's been. The temperature's been similar in the couple of practice sessions I participated in, but that wind, and we talk about the crests on this track, and especially on the backstretch, and how they can be alarming at times. The very last one, right before the start-finish line, Joe, with that wind coming across the track, man, that could be really, really sketchy. The car gets, as you know, very light, if you will, in many, many sections of this track.
Yeah, so I got a feeling that these guys are going to be struggling to keep it on the circuit, and the barriers are very close out there. Currently in qualifying, provisional pole goes to Michel, with Mick following him home. A bit surprising, since Mick tends to fare rather well at this track. And then appropriately, Ove is sitting in third. We're waiting on some of our faster drivers to get times in, including Billy Bob Wright. This is Andrew Eng that we're on board with currently. And Billy Bob missed his first lap. He's just coming around Lodge right now, up and over Deer Leap. Got to make sure it stays on track through here. Let's see if this one counts as he crosses the line. No, it does not. Oh, Billy Bob's going to have to start from the very back on Sean, a track that already makes it tough to pass around here.
It really does. And boy, there are a couple of opportunities, Joe, Shell Oil. I honestly, that corner, turn 5, the banking there will help you pull off a pass and set yourself up to get out of 6. But that's the problem. Turn 6, that bend in the track that leads to the back straight. Joe, you've really got to let the car settle there. If it really wants to wash out to the left, if you get on the throttle too quick hitting the straight, you'll spin it around and lose any time or any chance at a great pass up that straightaway. Now, that straightaway, we talked about the crest. You got to be careful because it's straight, yes, but the car is wicked. There just aren't a lot of full throttle zones. You'll never hit maximum throttle on this track.
Well, the grid is set. Everybody's got their 2 laps in, so let's go through your starting order. Michel Dudignon, as we mentioned, has kept that pole with Mick Claridge starting on the outside of him. Ove Trangrade, P3 for him. And Rob Olnick comes back with a nice 4th. Philip Lake will be starting P5, with Eduardo Prado coming back once again for his 2nd race. He'll start on the outside of row 3. Roman Pavlowski will be in 7th, with Gary Teal starting 8th. Then you've got Ian Haycox, P9, and 10th goes to Hugh Haycox.
All right, Joe. Daniel Sadro going to start P11 today, right next to Bruce Nelson. He's starting 12th. David Rossi, that's a 13th place start for him. And Steve Hogan will go P14. Phil Burkhart will start 15th today in a number 18. Grant Patullo is going to start 16th. 17th, going to go to Don. Tell me something good. 17th for him. Andrew Eng, 18th. 19th for Ryan Garvin, and Johnny Bell, the Pennsylvania driver today, going to start 20th in the number 22.
Paul Beatty will be 21st, with Yulo for Colin, and 22nd. Colin Coker starts 23rd. Last driver to get a time in is Mauricio Toro in 24th. Billy Bob Wright will be 25th, and Bobby Reynolds will be in 26 on the back row. Those two just waiting for Billy Bob to get out there, and we will be ready to go racing for 24 laps. There we go. All right, lights are up. Engines start to rev. Green flag is out. It is a very good start from Ove Trangrade in the first part, but then he backs out of it on the second half. Everybody streams into Old Hall. Is everybody going to get out the other side, though? It can be tough to find the power off of this turn, and so far, so good.
Oh, we get a car off at the back.
Yep.
Paul Beatty into the tire barrier back there.
Ooh, a bad start already for Paul. Otherwise, everybody Everybody streaming into Shell Oil. Oh, and somebody off there. That is Olenek, unfortunately, dropping back to P8. Going to lose potentially another position as he goes side by side with Ian Haycox. Oof, I would not want to go too wide over that crest of Hilltop and then into Knickerbrook. Drivers now streaming their way through Clay Hill and Water Tower up towards Druids. Dudignon leading Claridge handily. They've dropped Eduardo Prado by a big gap. It is 3 seconds. Not sure what exactly happened there, but he managed to get by Ove Trangrade. We didn't see it on screen, but he had a big slide down through Lodge.
Oh, Mauricio Toro with trouble. Joe. Oh, wow. He was just heading to Deerleap, and he has to bring his car into the pit.
Another driver who unfortunately fell victim to Lodge there. The track drops away and looks like he just could not find the grip. Slammed it into the tires. So himself and Beatty, the only drivers who have taken damage so far that had to take it into pit lane. Jones back up to the front, where Prado's becoming something of a plug in the bottle. Ove Trangrade's trying to get by, but can't quite find a way past yet. He's got a great run coming over Hilltop. How brave is he? He pokes his nose down into Knickerbrook. Could he try it this early in the race? He's not brave enough on the brakes, it looks like. They work their way now back into Druids for the second time. Behind them, that is Phil Lake, Gary Teal, Hugh Haycox, Rob Olenek, Ian Haycox. It is a long train. And Sean, it sounds like you noticed an incident with Hogan. What happened?
Yeah, Hogan had a big spin, and Andrew Ng just avoided him, but basically had to stop right in the middle of the track. It was a pretty scary moment. Everybody got through. No damage on the cars, but again, a scary moment for Andrew Ng.
Oh, and Trangrade with more mistakes. He's under threat now with Phil Lake to the outside. And it looks like he's going to manage to hold him off through Cascades, but that loses him touch with Prado. Down into Shell Oil. Prado's probably glad to not have pressure for at least a couple corners. And you can see just how many cars are caught up behind Eduardo here, who has got himself into third and doesn't look intent on giving it up. For fans of Ryan Garvin, unfortunately, you might notice him down the order. He had a spin in Druids, found the wall, and he is out of this race as well. 23 cars left out of 26 starters. We're only on lap 3. Coming down through Lodge. Trangrade's got it underneath him once again, Sean.
Yeah, Prado, a little bit of a slip through there. Join the list of everybody who else has it. Oh, Ove trying to stick it in there. Prado's not having any of it.
Trangrade's starting to look a little bit desperate. He knows he's got pace, and he knows he's losing touch with the leaders with every lap. They come up through Island Bend now. Fast left-hand sweeper leading into the heavy braking of Shell Oil. Just nowhere close enough. Behind them, Hugh Haycox fell down the order after he had something of a save, it sounds like.
Big save for Hugh Haycox. I had flipped over to that, was keeping an eye on him, and yeah, he had a big moment.
Oh, Don Good had a big one as well. And I think he managed to stay out of the wall, but Island Bend saw him streaming out at nearly 100 miles an hour into the grass.
Did a great job of getting that car slowed down. Obviously knew he was in trouble and got on the brakes early enough to keep it from sliding all the way out in the tire barrier. Really good job by Hugh. Or I'm sorry, by Don.
Did a very smart thing, just keeping it straight and slowing it up so that it didn't spin. Meanwhile, this is our leader. Michel Dudignon has started to pull away from Mick Claridge. He certainly has got good pace over Mick. He's stretched it out to 1.3 seconds. You can see behind them, it is a pretty long gap to the next cars back. Just those two in the shot, but it's getting a lot more cars in the shot. Back in third place once again. Ove taking a peek, but nothing doing.
Yeah, I'm still watching this one. It's a hard one to get off of, Joe. Ove keeps pressing, and Prado keeps the car right on track. It tries to block him off there.
And this is side-by-side action between Olenek and Gary Teal. And Olenek is going to come out on top between those two for 6th place. This has slowed them up as Roman Pawlowski puts 2 wheels off in the grass, somehow keeps it together. My goodness. Despite passing being so difficult, this has been phenomenal out here. All 3 of them now coming into Lodge and then down into the valley before Deer Leap.
Well, you can see it on screen. We've got these 2 great 3-car battles up at the front of the field.
Drivers now coming through for lap 6 into Cascades. Oh, and we've got Roman Pawlowski with a big off as well. In the background, you might have just been able to see it. Another driver that was incredibly lucky to keep it out of the barrier.
Yeah, and Roman wasn't the only one to get off there. Snelson got off behind. Boy, what a great job by Roman to that's 2 incredible saves out of the tire barrier that we've seen.
Poor directors having to work overtime this morning. Woo, Snelson.
That's Snelson. Yeah, it snapped around on him right there.
And spun through the traffic. He got incredibly lucky. No, not shy of action today as we come back to Trangarade. Fighting with Prado, but still not able to find his way past to get onto the podium. Phil Lake eyeing both of them. Oh, and the big slide down through Lodge. Trangarade squirming on the power, trying to get it going. Somehow he doesn't lose Prado in that, but he immediately goes defensive on the front stretch as Phil Lake tries to go around the outside through Old Hall, pulls the over-under, manages to find the acceleration, but they're going to go too wide into Cascades. This is hard enough to break through this corner single file. The inside goes back to Trangarade. Nobody willing to give up, and they're looking at possibly going through Island Bend too wide here. Eventually, Phil Lake is going to give up the ghost, it looks like.
Is he?
Yeah, he finally knew.
No, I'll tell you what, some incredible driving by both of them there. And side by side anywhere for any stretch of this track, it's just, I don't think a good idea. We talked about how unstable the car is already. I want my own piece of real estate.
Yeah, I was the same way. Any pass I want done very quickly. So Ove's now got work to do because of all that fighting to catch up to Prado. This has allowed Rob Olenek to start to run them down. He's left Teal and Pawlowski behind with their troubles. So that second 3-car fight is broken up and has started to bring us a 4-car fight for 4th. You can see it on screen. Something seems to have happened to Philip Urquhart, but it was a while ago because he's been in the pits now. We'll try and gather up information to see what happened to him.
Oh, no. Joe, I just caught Don Good. Just had a horrible incident. Coming down into Druids.
I think our director said it all. He put the camera on it and let out an oh dear behind the scenes. Let's see. Oh no. Water tower, unfortunately, just got loose, and the barriers are so close on either side through that left-hand stretch. Eventually the car was upside down, and there's no coming back from that.
No, there isn't, unfortunately.
Coming back live, this is Daniel Sadro down in 10th position. This is a battle we haven't even had time to look at. Hugh Haycock's ahead of Sadro, with Ian Haycock's sandwiching the poor guy. Up and through Clay Hill and Water Tower. Sadro trying to get himself back up to the gearbox of Hugh. British driver racing out of France currently. Has himself into P9, having started in 10th, and he doesn't want to give up that lone spot that he's managed to gain. Already 9 laps in, but we are not yet halfway through this race. One thing that always struck me about this track, Sean, is the way that and Hugh Haycox bobbles it off of Cascades. He eventually brings it back to the track, but unfortunately, his father Ian very quickly streams through, as well does Sadro. 2 positions lost in the snap of a finger. We come up the 4th, yeah, and thought maybe that Trangrade finally had this one done. Credit to Prado. I mean, of all the tracks to try and fend off, this is a little bit of an easier one, but he's a little bit off track coming through Druids. Phil Lake takes advantage of that slow exit, gets the car to the inside, down into Lodge, and he is going to move himself up to 4th. Can he now dispose of Prado?
Boy, I don't know, Joe. Prado's just been too good here, too early in this race. But Phil Lake now clear of Trangrade, and let's see what he could do here.
Man.
Again, Prado's just been so smooth, regardless of the pressure that Trangrade was putting on him.
Yeah, man. Unfortunately today for Ove, the devil wears Prado, just could not get by. But Phil Lake was very quick in trying to overtake Ove Trangrade, so maybe he can do what the Norwegian could not. A little bit of an update on Billy Bob Wright after missing out on his qualifying. He's not had problems with overtaking. He's up to P12 out there.
Right, for this track that we talked about was so hard to pass on. Somehow Billy Bob is found a way to just kind of cut through the field like a hot knife through butter, and finds himself in P12 and on his way to a pretty good points day.
Mighty impressive from the number 11 car. Let's look at the mid-pack, since we've been focusing on those top 3 for quite a while. Bruce Nelson has a nice little battle going on in 14th. Grant Petullo been chasing him down. And don't forget Steve Hogan, who's come back into this and is trying to work his way into this fight.
Well, Hogan had that incident a little bit earlier, a spin and a good recovery, and right now finds himself battling for those 15th and 14th positions here.
Just as we look away, Rob Olenek finds his way past Trangrade. So move Rob up to 5th place as he almost loses at the same spot that he did earlier on. Going through Shell a little bit wide. Let's see how this happened. Just got a good run out of Cascades. Outgunned him. And within a couple laps, Ove Trangrade goes from looking for 3rd to finding himself in P6.
Well, you know, that oversteer style that Ove Trangrade seems to favor could be beating the tires up a little bit much right now on this hotter track, Joe, and it's costing him.
I'd say so. Up at the front, you can see on your screen, Michel Dudignon set the fastest lap of the race, and it has been a torrid pace for our front 2. They've gapped Prado by 13 seconds. And that's just a second place up to Mick Claridge. Make that 16 for the leader. He's already dealing with lap traffic as Dudon heads on by Colin Coker.
Caught Colin at a good spot there, actually. Was able to breeze right by him.
Very few good spots with traffic around here. 26 cars, which is a decent-sized field. I'm surprised they haven't hit more. I guess a lot of cars have fallen out at this point. We jump back to that battle for third, which has been the hot spot today. Phil Lake already pulling away a little bit from Rob Olenek, but has not yet put the pressure on that we saw Trangaré did to Eduardo Prado.
I think that's coming, Joe.
Oh, and Mick Claridge has had a big accident. He's taken a tow. And it was with lap traffic. Unfortunately, Colin Coker slow where Mick did not expect into Clay Hill. He must have hit him just right or something, because it didn't look like he hit hard. Suspension damage maybe. Oh, and Lake has now gotten past Prado. Sorry, we'll watch that in a second. We're still on the replay. Phil Lake being incredibly decisive out there today. Here's the replay on the pass down into Lodge. You can see he set it up out of Druids. A little bit of wheels into the grass. And Prado finally has to give way.
And as we were in the replay, Olenek and Ove were battling and still continue to battle. And no, Olenek was almost around.
Oh, you want to come back?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
My
coming
bad.
up over Hilltop now. But Olenik's recovered, thankfully. He's leading Trangaré in fourth place due to the problems that Mick Claridge had. That promotes Phil Lake now up to second. I think any hopes for a win for Phil, though, are probably long gone unless Michel has some sort of issue himself, which is not out of the question.
Well, we already saw Mick get in trouble with traffic. Listen, Michelle's not, absent from something bad happening in traffic, so let's hope not.
A little bit on screen, we caught Olenek having some wheel spin out of Druids. Almost was overtaken by Trangaré, but he had to back out of it, so he split up into two packs of two. That's Lake and Prado, and Olenek and Trangaré for second and third, and fourth and fifth, respectively. And lap traffic not making things any easier. That is Robert Reynolds. I almost wonder if Coker was slowing up to let Claridge through, and it just caught him out. I'll have to ask one or the other of them a little bit later if we can get an interview with them.
All right, well, we've gone past the halfway point. Things have, obviously, the face of this race has changed a few times now. Phil Lake, like you said, after getting through and up to P2, still a pretty big gap between him and Michel. Michel was just so fast in practice all morning, and honestly, his pace is going to be hard to beat at this point. He seems to have a handle on it today. Not giving up on Prado here, though. He is, again, started this race so smooth, and as I say that, puts a couple of wheels off in the grass coming up the hill.
Manages to save the car. This has got to be a little bit disappointing for Mick, because while Michel managed to win at his home track in France in Le Mans in the first round, this would have been the first home race for Mick over here in the UK, and Michel is going to make it 3 for 3 as the way things are looking. Back in sixth place, Gary Thiel has been caught by Roman Pawlowski. Pawlowski looking left and right to try and see if he could find a way past, but Island Bend is a fast one, and there's just no way by for now.
Yeah, and short of some excitement early for Pawlowski, it's been a pretty quiet race, but not now. Certainly has those elbows up on the wheel, got an opportunity here, and honestly, Ove not that far ahead of them now.
For Colin in front of them, he's going to, ooh, this is perfect.
He's
Wow,
got it away.
nicely timed.
Yeah, nice.
Thought
Thank
he
you.
was going to cause them trouble, and he is able to dash out of the way at the last second through Druids. A little slide from Gary Teal, but he finds traction off the corner. Roman Pawlowski has to stay behind as they now break for Lodge. See just how much the cars wiggle trying to get onto the power. Oh, in second place side by side is Phil Lake under threat from Prado. Prado wants this one back, especially now that it's one position more that he could have had. And that little battle has gathered up Olenek and Trangrade into a four-car fight once more.
Well, with the passing opportunities few and far between, Prado sees the laps ticking down, and boy, look at that. You've got Olenek right there pressing also. He's trying to defend against Trangrade. This battle, Joe, has really been the story of the race.
Yeah, and you could see on screen Prado nearly got in the gearbox of Phil Lake coming through Shell Oil, and that slowed them up so much that Rob Olenek had a peek around the outside. That didn't work. They stay in position. That's Lake in second, Prado third, Olenek fourth, and Trangrade in fifth. Olenek looking left and right around Prado. Remember, Olenek qualified in P4, which is where he is right now, but he seems to have had good pace, good enough that he's got back up to this group and has gotten past Trangrade. So I wonder if he's got enough underneath him that he could maybe move up higher in positions. He's continued to threaten. Meanwhile, Hugh Haycox is off course with a lot of damage, and that happened in Druids. See if we can see it on screen, because he was blinking a lot on mine. Yeah, you could see on his.
It was that made it kind of hard for me to follow as well. So I don't know if it was his issue or connection related, or he just got loose over the crest there. Had been running a great race too. That's a shame.
Yep, British driver unfortunately out at his home track. Meanwhile, we've come back to the battle for second. It is still Lake in front of Prado. See the four cars involved down in the lower right of your screen. Oh, what a big slide from Rob Olenek coming through Druids. Manages to stop the car before he reaches the grass on the outside, but this gives Trangrade a look down into Lodge. He manages to stop the car before Rob Olenek does, and that moves him back up to fourth. Man, Prado still hounding Lake at every corner. Right on board with Phil, looking back over the engine.
Yeah, I don't think Prado is very happy with the fact that he gave that position up to Phil. Obviously, he's still trying to get it back every 10 feet of track. If Prado's looking for an opportunity to get in here.
They got more traffic in front of him. Johnny Bell is coming up. That onboard just reminded me, Sean, how open these cars are. They always talk about how tightly packed modern F1 cars are. These things, I guess, you just walk up to it and find what you want and start working away.
Yeah.
Coming through Clay Hill and Water Tower. They're starting to leave behind Ove Trangrade after that fight that they had. Cost them a little bit of time. 6 laps to go. Based on the number of troubles we've seen, it's probably going to be something of a mercy when the checkered flag comes out here.
Joe, I know we've been focused on this battle for a bit. I'm still watching Teal and Pawlowski. This battle hasn't let up either. Roman is really pressing. I hope not too hard. Oh, and there.
Yep, he's pressing too hard. Looks like Old Hall caught him out, but he didn't lose too much time, just had to back off of the gearbox of Gary Teal.
I shouldn't talk about him anymore.
No matter what your brother says, it is not the Sean curse. It is still the commentator's curse.
Yes.
So, almost gets into the back of him as we switched back to Olenek. Don't. Oh, and did something happen to Prado here?
Just was really loose there, Joe. No, Teal, Pavlovsky. Teal takes the hit and into the barrier.
That was car contact
Boy.
between them. We got the replay.
I don't think that's the way either one of them wanted this to end.
No. And it's hard to blame them. It is so narrow. It is so bumpy. Both trying to keep away from the edges of the track, and unfortunately, just one little bounce, I think, maybe put Prado a little bit to the left or potentially Teal to the right. Yeah, you could see the car just suddenly, just a little bobble to the left from Prado.
Pavlovsky.
Excuse me, yes, from Pavlovsky.
Pavlovsky.
Another yellow car that we've been watching.
Another yellow car, exactly. Yeah, well, I talked about it earlier in the race. Remember, just side by side for any good stretch of time, probably not a good idea because you're about to hit a crest or something, or a bump at the track, and that's unfortunate. It was a great battle.
Now down to 5 laps to go, and very quickly going to be 4 left. Will be Trangrade still at the back of these 4. That is Phil Lake, you see, who has now wiggled his way up to P2. Prado down in 3rd. Rob Olenek running 4th, and Trangrade bringing up the rears in P5.
And Dudignon hot lapping, Joe. It's basically...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he's hot
25
lapping.
seconds. Just unreal.
Might have a little bit to do with the fact that obviously 2nd back to 5th has been locked in a really good battle for most of these laps. But again, he seems to have had very little trouble today.
A little bit farther down, it's been a nice fight between Petullo and Hogan. We've seen Hogan for a little bit, but not Grant Petullo, who started 16th. He's moved his way up to 13th, survived where everybody else has fallen by the wayside. As they work their way past the traffic of Fort Colin. Incredibly, we still have 15 cars on the lead lap. Only running around here at about a minute and a half, just under a minute and a half. So impressive that as many cars as we've had, that so many have managed to stay on that lead lap.
P8 not settled yet either. Sadro holding off Ian Haycox. One of the Haycox going to try and finish this race.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, this was the same battle that we saw at the very start between these two. Although I believe Sadro has managed to get by Ian, if I'm remembering. I'm trying to remember if it was Hugh or Ian that was ahead of him before. Three laps to go now.
We hadn't given a Billy Bob update, Joe. He's cracked the P10. Well, he's cracked the top 10. He's in 10th now.
It'll be a nice haul of points.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be too disappointed with that.
Honestly, he's not far from catching this battle between Sadro and Haycox. He's only just over a second back.
Ooh, second place, still getting closer. Prado starting to lose out to Olenek, and Olenek has got to run, but he's going to lift. Oh, both cars starting to lose traction over Hilltop. That gives a second chance to Rob Olenek. Too wide, down into Knickerbrook. Look at how much they have to slow up. Still, neither driver giving way, as that is Ove Trangrade behind them. watching on, and eventually Olenek gives up. Oh, and he slides through Druids once again. That's not the first time we've seen that. Little look down to the inside into Lodge, but nothing doing for Trangarate.
And Ove's car just looks so incredibly unstable. It's just crazy. Car is just dancing all over the place.
That's just how Ove drives that thing. 2 laps to go now. I think we're starting to see a little bit more aggressive moves, a little bit braver moves from these drivers. And my goodness, that lost them time as another slide from Olenek is going to give it up to Trangarade. Ove up to 4th. But the gap between Lake and Prado with that side-by-side action that Eduardo had cost him a whole 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, Phil's just got to stay on the hammer here. He should be able to keep Prado well back in the mirror if he can just get around here for about 1.5 laps.
Keep half an eye on that battle for P4 between Trangarade and Olenek, but the white flag just came out for Michel Dudagnon. This will be a victory lap. He's stretched out to 28 seconds. A 30-second gap in only a 26-lap race. That tells you all you need to know. So ride on board with the Frenchman. And again, this will be a perfect hat trick for him in the first 3 rounds if he just brings his car home. But we've seen this before, Sean, that drivers have had a phenomenal start to the season and go on to lose the championship due to attendance. You can ask Mick Claridge about that one.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't write this one off yet. Michel Dudagnon now coming through Clay Hill and into Water Tower. Up to 29 seconds back to Phil Lake. Dudagnon through Druids with a little bit of a slide for some flair. The number 1 car is going to be uncontested today as he takes essentially the final corner through Lodge, up and over Deer Leap onto the front stretch. Victory for Michel Dudagnon for the 3rd time this season. Back for 2nd place. Lake has managed that gap to Eduardo Prado. Lake started this thing in 5th. Prado in 6th. Both of them looking at a podium today. This is a fine drive from both drivers. Phil Lake on home territory. Going to get onto the podium today. Eduardo Prado follows him home in 3rd. And Trangarade's got to be disappointed back there in 4th. Rob follows him home in 5th.
Joe, Ian Haycock still trying to get this done. Daniel Sadro clinging to this P8.
I don't think he's got it. It looks like
Yeah.
Sadro gets 8th. 12th, though. Petullo and Hogan. Oh, and I think Hogan had a mistake. Yep. He had a go at him in Knickerbrook and went off course in the process. So with that, everybody streams on in. The last of the cars coming home. Johnny Bell going to be the last, or excuse me, Hogan going to be the last one on the lead lap. We're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you'll see the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Oulton Park. We watched a doozy of a race, but it was mostly for third and second place with the four-car train really duking it out up at the front. Your winner, Michel Dudignon, well, he basically just had to run away from Mick Claridge, and then after Mick ran into trouble, it was pretty easy for Michel to control things. Phil Lake took second place after starting from fifth, and Prado tried to hold on to that second as well as he could, but still third, not too bad considering he started behind Phil in sixth. Ove Trangrade from third down to fourth for him, and then Rob Olenek finishes P5. Roman Pawlowski had an early problem, fought back to sixth position. Gary Teal had some contact with him, sadly, and finished seventh. Daniel Sadro comes home eighth with Ian Haycock's ninth. How about Billy Bob Wright, though? Missed out on qualifying and climbs from 25th to 10th. Sean?
All right, P11, going to go to David Rossi. Grant Petullo will finish 12th today. Steve Hogan, we watched there finish this race. He'll finish it in 13th. Bruce Nelson, a 14th place run for him. P15 for Andrew Eng. Johnny Bell, one lap down, 16th. Julio Forcolin, there 17th for him. Colin Coker, 18th. Robert Reynolds, 19th today. And Hugh Haycock, P20.
Claridge with a disappointing 21st after a DNF. Don Good 22nd and Philip Urquhart 23rd. Ryan Garbin comes home 24th with Paul Beatty in 25th and Mauricio Toro 26th. Those two drivers unfortunately did not complete a single lap this race. We do have second place ready to talk to us. Phil Lake joins us. Phil, this looked like a fun one with quite a bit of a battle, but you kind of picked your way through one by one.
Yeah, it was an intense race. It's fun to look back on, I think. It wasn't fun at the time. But yeah, wasn't expecting that at all, actually, to be honest. And it turned into a really, really good race. I just sort of realized I was a little bit stronger than the guys ahead through Druids. Is it Druids? I think it's Druids. So I was able to get a run into the second to last turn, and I passed Ove and Eduardo in the same corner. So that worked out well for me.
Very observant for you to pick that out during the race. Now, you've raced here, of course, in the Camel Series, which involves cars with a little bit more downforce and also a little bit heavier in the case of the Audi. What's it like switching over here to the Lotus 49? Was it a bit of an eye-opener?
This might be my new favorite combination of car and track. I've always loved Oulton Park anyway, but in the 49, you really don't get a breather at all. Even the straights are dangerous. It's just 100% focused like the whole time. And I was just gripping on for dear life for most of that.
Yeah, that describes it well, holding on for dear life. Well, glad to see you get out here in the car once again and driving. Will we see you when we head over to Japan next week?
Maybe, yeah. Rob usually tempts me to try out the 49, so yeah, maybe I'll see how it goes for next week. But big thanks to Rob for the setup. It was really, really good setup.
I'd say so. With a second place out there today, congratulations on a podium, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thank you.
That was Phil Lake finishing second. The driver a little bit behind him, Sean, has caught up with fifth place finisher Rob Olenek.
Rob, good to talk to you, buddy. It's been a while. How much fun was that today?
I had a blast. I'm sweating more than I think I've ever sweat in a race. It was fun. I mean, kind of stinks to end up last out of the battle of four, but I don't really care. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was some back. This is a great track. It's hard to pass, but it's so difficult. It's easy for someone to make a slight mistake, and it creates a good amount of opportunities. So, I mean, I think we should come here more often. It's awesome.
Well,
congrats to Phil too.
Yeah, well, he just thanked you for the set in the interview.
It was amazing. I told him where we were. He loves this track. I gave him a set. Within 20 minutes, he was running the same time as me, and I was like, damn, like he hasn't driven the car in a while. So I was like, you'll do good. You need to race. And he was like, I don't know if I want to race. I'm like, no, just race. You're going to do good if you can pick it up to speed that quick. So,
Well, the other thing that Phil talked about was how you just never really get a break at this circuit in this car. Do you share that same opinion?
yeah, I mean, almost more than any other track. I mean, Nords feels like that, but you do have the long straight and there's a few other things. This one, it's no break at all. I mean, my shoulders are sore. It also makes you, it's so tense, like I couldn't relax my shoulders and my hands. It's really a tense race. Like you're ready to die at any moment.
So are you done for the weekend here, or you may get a couple more in?
I mean, if some guys want to race this again, I'll definitely do it. Maybe tomorrow or Monday, but Camel's next.
Yeah, you
That
got to
should be
get
fun too.
You got to get ready for that. Yeah. Well, hey, hopefully you have just as good a run there in Camel GT here in just a couple hours. So I guess get to practicing, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Okay. See you later, guys.
All right, Joe. Rob Olenek there with a great P5 finish today, and obviously a great setup.
Clearly, from the way that those two were driving, I must be the only 49 driver that does not enjoy this combination, but that's okay because I get to enjoy it from the booth, and I really enjoyed calling this one because that battle was incredible. So a big thank you goes out to the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for this season of coverage, as well to iRacing for putting us on IES. And make sure and subscribe when you get the opportunity. You can do so right after this broadcast finishes. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Laund, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Amjad, and Dougie, with a little bit of help from John Ambrose and Stefan Schlacker as spotters in the background today. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Next race, we're going to a very different track, a very stop-start track. That's Motegi. That'll be Saturday, July 6th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.